Hey guys, it's Joy. Welcome to my channel if you are new. And if you follow me, then you'll have to go down and check below in the description box and see all of the wonderful boy mamas that are in this collaboration with me. Heidi over at BoyMamas started this collaboration. And so we have a list of 15 questions that we are going to answer. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive right in. The first is, how many boys do you have? I have 2 boys. They are 9 and 7, and then I have a daughter who is 5. So my oldest is almost 10. He will be 10 in about a month, and my heart can hardly believe it and can hardly handle it. But they are about 2 years and 2 months apart in age. And do they get along is the next question. Wouldn't I love to say yes all the time? But that is not the truth. They have their squabbles just like probably any other siblings. But I would say overall they do get along really well. My younger son is very much a peacemaker. He is very easygoing and easy to get along with. And my older one's not difficult by any means, but they do get along pretty well most of the time. Let's just leave it at that. The next question is, what makes having boys so special? And this was a really difficult question for me to formulate into words because of course it's special, but I had a really hard time thinking outside of like, well, yeah, it's special because you don't have to fix their hair in the morning. It's a lot easier to get out the door. But beyond that, what I came to the conclusion of is, it's good to parent someone who's not like you. And I really feel like my boys, I've had to stretch and learn so much. And even learning about my husband has helped me learn about my boys, and learning about my boys has helped me learn about my husband. And I just really feel like I have gained some huge insight and knowledge into how to parent better and how to parent well. And of course it's an ongoing, constant struggle, but I do really feel like that is a good thing to parent someone who isn't like you. It's a simpler love between a boy and his mama. It's just, it's wonderful, and it's also, I love their honesty, their unapologetic honesty, and just their conversation. It's just so minimalistic, and I feel like that is something that I appreciate, and something that I have, it also makes, when they do have those sensitive moments, it makes it so lovely and just delightful. And my younger son is very sensitive, and it just, can feel the room and what's happening in it. My older son is quite opposite of that. And so that's been really fun to kind of get to know how their little brains think. And of course, no 2 boys are going to be alike, but it's just really fun to kind of, I don't know, it's very special having boys. And what is the one thing you think a boy mama can't do without is the next question. Bathroom spray? I really don't know beyond that, to be honest. You can do with so fewer of things in your bathroom and in their clothing and shoes and everything. So it's really like, you can do without a lot for boys, I would say. And since my boys are older, obviously when they were younger, I would have very much answered that question differently. I would have said, I can't do without having some sort of car or train or something with wheels in my purse at all times, because that would keep them occupied if we had to wait anywhere or we were at a restaurant or anything like that. What is your bedtime routine like? That is the next question, and I'll just kind of skip that one because our bedtime routine now is awful. It's so bad. We used to have a great bedtime routine, and our kids went to bed pretty well, and I don't know what happened, but my older son really, he just constantly he thinks a lot and has a hard time shutting that off at night. So he kind of keeps his brother up because they sleep in the same room, and they kind of feed off of each other. So sometimes we do have a bottom and a top bunk, but the bottom bunk has like a double bed, and so they both sleep on that. So if it gets too crazy, we send one up to the top, and that's how we handle it. But it's not great right now, so I have no advice in that area. What do people react? Oh, how do people react when you are out in public? I don't have enough boys to make people be like, whoa. Or I also don't have baby boys who kind of run around all crazy because I've been there, done that. So they don't really react at all to my kids, I guess. I will say, when they were younger and they were just being loud or whatever, I remember the mamas who were like, oh, I had boys. I remember they were just, and they were running around crazy or whatever. Like, they related instead of like giving me the side stink eye. And I just was so thankful for them. I mean, of course I couldn't like stop and say it because I was chasing after my kids, but I just remember those kind comments from other like older moms. And I try and do that to mamas who are out and maybe their kids like screaming bloody murder or whatever, I try not to like interrupt that, but I try to smile at them rather than giving them like, those sideways glance of like, get it together, lady, because if you are a mom, like you've been there probably. Unless you're super duper lucky. Okay, the next question is, describe your boys in one word. Curious. That's my one word. What is their current obsession or collection? I wouldn't say my kids have like a major collection right now. They do like stuffed animals for whatever reason. My husband can't understand it. I loved stuffed animals growing up, so I guess it comes from me. But my oldest son has kind of one of those personalities where he very much like obsesses or fixates on, and unfortunately it's like catastrophic events. It's like 9/11 or the Titanic or something like a war or something like that. Like, I don't get it. Again, that is one of those things where I'm just like, I asked my husband, I'm like, I cannot understand this. I just cannot. So I'm just going to defer to you on this because I just don't even know where to go from there. So yes, 9/11 is actually his current obsession, and he just knows so many facts about it. The interest, I guess, well, I'll answer that down below for the homeschooling boys part. But the next question is, are your boys loud and wild, quiet and calm, or somewhere in the middle? Definitely somewhere in the middle. It just depends on who you're comparing them to, I guess. So, but I would say generally just somewhere in the middle. And the next question is, what is the hardest part about homeschooling boys? I have found, and they're doing a lot better as they're getting older, but it was just really hard as a young homeschooling mom of young kids because boys don't want to sit and learn. And so I found it very hard, well, not hard, but I found it challenging to try and find ways that they could learn that were more tactile and more active. And I found some great curriculum, Logic of English being one of them, that is absolutely great for boys because it involves games. It comes up with games that you don't have to come up with for it. So it kind of takes that work out of it for you. And the next question is the flip side. What is the easiest part about homeschooling boys? Because they do have specific interests, I find that it's really fun to, and it makes it kind of easy to kind of gear your homeschooling towards their interests. And not that you can do that like necessarily, with everything. I'm not saying that because I've tried that and it's just a whole lot of work. You can, but it's fun to kind of chase after their interests in little small ways that you can during homeschooling. And so therefore it's fun to see as you homeschool them, no matter what they are learning about, they will, well, my oldest son anyways, he always ties it back to what his obsession is. And so I do find that the easiest part about homeschooling because he immediately makes those connections with whatever he loves. And you can kind of gear him, or point him in that direction. Like if he loves trains, my son used to be obsessed with trains. And so we would just do a lot of things that had to do with trains. I wouldn't like gear his whole math lesson and stuff around that, but I definitely would try and, we were studying shapes. We would make a train, a circle with his train tracks or whatever. I mean, just things like that really are so much easier with boys, I feel like, because girls, you just like slap a princess sticker on whatever and they're like, I love it. At least my daughter, she loves anything like princess or whatever. what are some of your favorite books for boys? You know, as I was thinking about this, really, I think the only one that I've specifically read for boys, like completely through from beginning to end, was Bringing Up Boys by James Dobson. And I remember like holding my newborn oldest son and reading this book. And so that was the only one, because I was like, what are we gonna do with the boy? Because we didn't find out what we were having. And so I read that book and it was really good. And it's funny, the funny story is my husband actually read it first, and then he gave it to me to read, and I had given it to him to read. So then I said, you read it because I'm busy and so it's gonna take me longer. So he read it, then he handed it to me and I'm like, what did you learn? He's like, it's all pretty like self, you know, like I didn't really learn much is basically what he said. I read it, every page I turned, I was like, oh my goodness, no, hey, no, really? Like, I mean, I didn't, you know, I'm not like 100% endorsing this book because I don't really remember everything that I read, but I do remember reading certain things about boys in there that I did not know at the time. And it was just enlightening to me. It was the first step down this road of raising boys. And then there was another book I read, and I can't tell you what it is because I think I only read like a chapter of it, but I remember this line. It said, boys see an open space and they must run. And I remember that, and I will never forget it, because that gave me so much hope, because my sister had girls and I really wasn't around anybody who had boys necessarily of that age. And I just thought I was a horrible mother. And I was like, well, apparently I'm doing everything wrong because they're so crazy and rambunctious and everything else. And I remember reading that line and thinking, it's not just me, you know? So that was kind of a little tidbit there. What is something special you do with your boys? I don't want this video to be too terribly long. What we've started this year actually is on their birthday date each month, we let them pick what to eat for supper and a special activity, you know, and something small, like not something super expensive, but like maybe go out for ice cream with whichever parent they choose. And usually it's daddy because mommy's home with them all day and I'm fine with that. I'm like, go ahead. But if they want to go with me, all the better. And then what we do around the dinner table is we say something that we appreciate about that child. And that has been really great for not only that child, because they just light up like a little light bulb, but for their brother and sister to think about what they truly appreciate about them. So that's been really fun. And then give one piece of advice for boy mamas. Just love them fiercely and enjoy their crazy conversation that you just want to like poke your eyeballs out sometimes because it's about trains or how pistons work or something equally that I could care less about, but just enjoy them and learn from them. That is the most, that's the best advice I could give right now, because honestly, all the rest of it, I mean, you're just going to learn as you go. And so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I went over what I wanted to, but I hope you have a great day and I will see you in the next video.